If you follow this channel, and of course you do, you know I do a lot of mods to my basses. I'm always trying to get the optimal feel and the optimal sound out of them, switching out things. So today we're going to look at one of my secret weapons. It's a simple upgrade that gets you better action than you've ever had before, a more consistent tone, and makes any changes to your string gauge and setup easy, and it's low cost. I know, shut up and tell us what it is, Rodney. It's a zero fret. What's a zero fret? Well, simply put, it's a fret that's installed right at the end of the nut before the first actual fret, first position. It determines the open note rather than the nut. I add one to every bass I know is going to be a permanent part of my arsenal. You can kind of see it here on this PV Rudy Sarzo that I've been overhauling. I'm really surprised it's not used by more companies, probably because it's not really that well understood. But high-end builders like Tobias, Sandberg, and even some higher-end Ibanez use them. Now, one of the major benefits of adding a zero fret is that it can create lower action on your bass, especially in first position. Now, especially since we do a lot of fast playing at the low end of the neck in heavy rock and metal, that's a huge bonus. I've never gotten as good a setup as I have with a zero fret with as good a action here. No contest. Another big advantage of the zero fret is that it makes string gauge changes way less of a hassle and almost irrelevant. Normally, changing a string gauge causes the need to cut your nut and resize it, sometimes even requiring an entire new one to be put in just to adjust for the different sizes. But when you have a zero fret, the height is fixed because this fret is the last point of contact, not the nut. So everything remains consistent. No matter what gauge you use, it's still going to be contacting here. So if you're experimenting with different string sets, it's best to have a good fit here, but at the end of the day, the nut behind a zero fret becomes a glorified string guide and doesn't really affect the final action and feel. And now another bonus. The zero fret helps in producing a more consistent tone. When you use a standard nut, all of your notes make contact with a fret as you play them. This isn't the case with your open strings though. They have a different tone from the others because you don't press on a note or on a fret to activate the note. This makes a different tone. Your open strings have a different tone than the ones you actually fret. Having a zero fret means your open strings do contact a fret and then your tone's more consistent note to note. So the big problem up until now is that we can't extend our fingerboards on an already finished bass to include a zero fret there, how it usually needs to be done. They're already made. The good news is we can mod to add one, and I've been doing this for a while. I'm going to show you how the mod works and how to install it. I'm using these. It's called the ZeroGlide. You can get these in 3 different versions, one with a blank nut, so you can file the slot yourself if you like and custom do it. One pre-cut with standard measurements, or you can actually contact them to get a pre-cut one done exactly to your specs like the one I got here. The ZeroGlide is designed to replace your existing nut, as you can see here, with an integrated zero fret docked into it, making it super easy to just replace, assemble, and be up and running. Now, I want to give a quick shout out. Although I've been using these for a while and you've probably seen them on some of my basses, I was contacted recently by Nick from Goldtone and he sent me these out so I could show them to you. Much appreciated for reaching out and for the new assemblies. Also, a big thanks to a follower of the channel, and I hope I'm pronouncing their name right, Adisa. They actually got in touch with Goldtone after seeing it on the channel and encouraged them to check it out. So many thanks for making that connection. It really helps if you mention the channel when getting gear if I helped you in that decision, as it lets me make more content you specifically want to see and things you're interested in. So this one's for you. So I've got a bass here ready to be completed. I've already done some of the pre-work and I'm going to show you how I pop it in. Now first, obviously you have to remove your nut. So don't go nuts chipping your fingerboard or anything like that. Take it off carefully and try and use a sharp object and do it cleanly. After that, here's our objective, is we want to get the second stair that you can see in this diagram here to line up with the fingerboard so that it creates an exact even level going from the fingerboard into the nut, but with a small divot or kind of a alley runway there for the fret tang to go in it. Again, check out this diagram, you'll see what I mean. You want the first step to be in line with the fingerboard being a flat surface, and then the second step to be where the fret tang goes into. If you didn't get one that's custom cut, what you have to do is just sand down the bottom of this until that second step is at the same exact level as your fingerboard. And then you're pretty much set to go, unless there's any kind of thing of it being, you know, much wider than your fingerboard or something like that. You know, just shaping it so that it fits. A lot less work than you do on most nuts. You get multiple gauges of the 0 fret wire here. Now again, mine have already been custom cut for me, so I don't have to cut these down. But you can see it kind of slips right into this slot here, and it's good to go. Now, like I said, usually what it'll do is it'll come with a fret wire that extends out to the sides so you can trim it once you've shaped it and everything and done it custom to your bass. But if you custom order one and give them your specs, they do a great job and get it set so it's perfectly even, just like that. So these are set to go. What you want to do is check these out, and they have a little bit of magic marker at the end color coding them, telling you what size that fret is. You want to match that with the gauge of fret that you have on your bass, and if it's up for debate or it's not exact, always go a little larger rather than a little smaller to make sure you don't get that buzz. You want to get a little bit of clearance at your first fret, so if in doubt, go up a little bit rather than going down. So let's head back to the bass with the other one I've already got set and see how the rest of this goes. Now, I've just got this finger held in here. Let's make sure I can get this in the picture. But you can pretty much see that's really all there is to it. Once it's flush, you have the fret right in there on the slot, and this is pretty much good to go. That's the extent to the massive mod. Once you've gotten this down though, you want to glue this into place. Now, some people will glue it in with crazy glue, things like that. I generally avoid that. I want, if there is some kind of massive overhaul that needs to happen, or if something chips the nut or breaks it or something, I want to be able to get it off without too much horrific damage. I usually go with wood glue. My preference, just a little bit to put it in there. You just need some underneath the nut to glue it in there, and then some on top of the, or in the fret tang in the slot to keep it secure. Doesn't take a whole lot, and you don't want a bunch of mess and clean up anyway. Just enough to keep it in there and keep it steady. That's really all the operation that goes into it. Then we just string it up. Let's check it out. And now, through the magic of internet time lapse, it's all strung up and ready to go. So, as you can see, it's barely noticeable, even apart from a regular nut. You just have that, almost hard to see in the camera, but just that silver line right there. Now, things you might want to do at the end is dress it a little bit, meaning, you know, file in from the sides a little bit, make it comfortable, that type of thing. But if you're not an expert with fretwork or you don't feel up to it, you don't have to do that much. You know, just getting the thing slotted well and putting it in and just making sure no sharp edges are hanging off the edge, and you're pretty much good to go. You can always go at it a little later with a small file or something, or even a block with a little bit of heavy sandpaper if you're careful, just getting that smoothed out. And yeah, I mean, this action, I can activate the note just by barely even touching. It's laying on that fret. That's really my favorite part, again, is getting that same tone with the open strings when I'm ripping through things, and having action so low, it feels like I'm not even having to really press the note down. Better than any kind of conventional nut setup I've ever had. So that's it. That's all it takes, and I think it does massive things for your bass, and it's not expensive. I'm going to put a link down to where you can get a 0 fret for yourself. Get one of these ZeroGlide packages in one of the 4 different variations, and let me know what you think. Is this something you're thinking about adding to your bass? Does it seem like something that would be a good upgrade? I think you can't lose with it. and be interested to hear your thoughts. So that's going to wrap it for this. Interested to hear your thoughts on it, and I will see you in the comments and on the next one.